All right, guys, we got mics for y'all. We read the comments and said, you don't have mics. We're trying these mics out. Lynn, I don't know if they work. We're trying them. So Southern Miss wins 38-20. The losing streak is over. 11-game losing streak is over. I believe Jackson State had an 11-game win streak, and I think that was the longest in the nation. So the longest losing streak in the country is over. The longest winning streak in the country is over.
Something had to give.
Something had to give. Southern Miss 38, Jackson State 20. Glyn, I'm very proud of myself. I pretty much nailed this game. Now, my game prediction was 38-10, so Jackson State got some garbage time scores at the end. But I thought Jackson State would keep it close until halftime. Southern Miss would pull away. I mean, we basically saw the exact same game we saw last week, just with Southern Miss being on the other end of it.
Yeah, I mean, JSU has good athletes, man. Big physical guys on the line of scrimmage on both sides of the football. They had a great plan in that first half, bringing blitzes from all over the place that Southern Miss wasn't so much ready for until they got into the half and made some adjustments on that blitz game, and then went to the screen game, and it was proved big for Southern Miss. Just an extension of the run game.
Right, and that's one thing I was going to mention. So Southern Miss only had 26 rushing yards in the first half, and I think they had 113 in the second half. But one thing Coach F was asked about in the postgame presser was, are you concerned about the running game? He said, no, because we were moving the ball. And if we can move the ball with the bubble screens, the tunnel screens, that's our extension of a run game. And I think, Glyn, that's right.
Yeah, he was dead on. And it was a great point by him because I hadn't even really thought about it.
Yeah.
If that's what it takes, you want to get the ball out on the perimeter and your wide zone run game's not working, throw it out there on the perimeter. It worked well for him.
And it really opened up the run game, I thought, in the second half because they were able to run the ball at least better. I know that Southern Miss has a little bit bigger depth and pieces on their offensive line versus Jackson State. They just kind of warmed down, but they were able to run the ball better. And I think that is something that you can take to next week's game and say, all right, we know we're probably not just going to be able to line it up and run up the middle the whole game, but if we can figure out these extensions of the run game and then add the element of Braylon running the ball, that's just going to help.
Right. I want to see these first two games, the running backs hadn't really made anybody miss or broken any tackles. They pretty much, for the most part, gone down with the first tackle. I want to see some make you miss and break some tackles, get some yak. That would be nice.
One thing coming into the game, Glenn, was Jackson State, we knew they were going to lean in on their run, and they really did. I think they rushed for 191 net total tonight. 120 of those yards came in the first half, but really felt like their offensive line dominated Southern Miss's in that first half for most of the first half.
Yeah, and Coach Huff alluded to it. Kudos to Coach at JSU. They took some of the stuff that Mississippi State was doing out on the perimeter and collapsing the offensive line down on the edge and picking up big yards there. They made adjustments. I mean, they're going to have to tackle better going forward. And I'd like to see, more consistent run fits too, from our linebackers and our safeties, spill into the football. That's, execution, like you said, we're going to have to execute better.
And something about Jackson State that I thought they did really well was really when they executed better than probably any FCS team coming in here. I mean, they really didn't make much mistakes. They had the turnover, of course, but they weren't just killing themselves with penalties all game. I thought that they played a pretty clean game, and some plays go their way, it could probably be closer, but man, Southern Miss just got off with a perfect start with the Demir Foster block, first block punt since 2011 that was returned for a touchdown. Glenn, that was just about the perfect way you can start. You walked into the stadium, Southern Miss runs out of the tunnel. I mean, I would say pretty close 60-40, maybe even 55-45. Jackson State fans, Southern Miss fans, I think outnumbered them a little bit. But, I mean, it was about as even split as you can. You see that coming out of your tunnel in your home stadium. It's hard to see. And then you get that block punt to kind of just get momentum and just kind of – and they never really looked back from there. I didn't ever feel like Jackson State was going to win.
No, and it was interesting, too, that Coach Huff said, during the week they saw that discrepancy in their punt block protection. And, it was there for them all day. Talked about that. The thing that really impressed me with Jackson State, they had size, but it was more athletic size than I thought they'd have. And I also thought defensively, particularly their linebackers, they tackled well and rallied to the football. They gang tackled and tackled well. I was impressed with that.
Yeah, I was going to say that too. That they made some open field tackles today where, it's one-on-one with Southern Miss. And I think some of it is that Southern Miss needs to make people miss. That's something that I think we've talked about. But, man, Jackson State, they made some plays in the open field. I mean, I know there was a couple plays when Braylon was scrambling, and you're like, oh, he's going to get 7 yards, and then they drop him for about a 2-yard gain. But also on that, I thought Braylon made some plays with his legs tonight, especially the drive that you quoted to Charles Huff, that 55-yard drive in the third quarter.
7-play drive.
2 third-down conversions, I think, with Braylon on his legs on that drive alone. He makes the plays, man, that you're just like, man, that has not been at Southern Miss
Braylon,
for 5. I don't even know if Southern Miss has had a quarterback like that.
No, not a dual threat with that much intelligence and game savvy.
Right.
He's a great equalizer.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to see him get that between the tackles, that inside zone duo, power game, counter game. I want to see him be a little more consistent with that run game so Braylon can get that play action game going. I know it's there for him.
Yeah.
They're going to have to execute better with that, going forward. This game next week is humongous.
Yeah, and I want to get to the game in a minute, but Glyn, I don't think Kyron Heath played tonight. I think he was going through maybe concussion protocol from last week, if I'm assuming what that injury was. But and maybe you could quote on that. But Caden Morris came out tonight. He started for Southern Miss. I thought, man, he made some plays tonight with the ball. Yeah, we actually got to interview him after the game, but I thought he made some plays tonight that really, for Caden Morris's sake. I mean, he always had the touchdown, and I thought he blocked well. What were your thoughts on him?
I mean, when they signed him from Eastern Michigan, they signed him because when Marshall played them last year, their all-star defensive end, All-American, they said that tight end, Caden, was the only tight end that blocked him man-on-man and could handle him. And, Coach said, if he ever gets in the portal, I'm grabbing this guy. So he comes in here, and I'm thinking, he's here to block.
Right.
That's his calling card. But, like he said in high school, he was a wide receiver, so he's got ball skills.
Right, and he showed it tonight. Obviously, Southern Miss, the losing streak's over, but Glyn, they haven't beat an FBS opponent for 2 years. So it's a lot like, in my head, it's more like they took care of business today. But like we've been saying, even in last week's video, man, the season starts next week here at the Rock, App State, at home. App State won today, close margin against an FCS opponent. I don't remember exactly who they were playing, but I know it was closer, but they're going to come in here pretty hot. I think they're probably one of the better East teams in the Sun Belt. First thoughts on them?
Totally agree, and I think their coach Dyar Logan is a great offensive mind. Lots of time in the NFL with quarterbacks there. He's a great offensive mind. I look forward to watching him call the game next week. Southern's going to have a really good week of practice, lots to clean up. Coach alluded to execution. That could be on both sides of the football. It's things to clean up. Something that concerns me with Southern is depth on the defense. They've got to find a couple of guys to give that second group, a little more productivity. Yeah,
and Isaiah Gibson went down tonight. Kind of looked like a wrist problem. I think he came back in later in the game.
They had the club.
But looked like a wrist problem, so that's something to monitor. And I think a couple other defensive players went down throughout the game. Carl Chester also went down, but he looked fine. It looked like kind of a cramp. But yeah, I think App State next week is probably the biggest game. Charles Huff talked for 3 minutes after his press conference was over about why he wanted fans there for a big game. And, last year it's very similar and eerily similar to last season when USF came in here. Felt like a huge game. At that point we didn't know really what Southern Miss was. We saw Kentucky game and Southeastern game. We were like, I don't know.
Right.
USF comes in here 49-24. We're like, okay, that's what they are. Now, I don't think it'll be like that next week for App State, of course. Early line on that game I think I saw was -9 for the Mountaineers. Mountaineers 9 points favorite. So, I think App State's the favorite, but Southern Miss I think can show why they can compete with the top level of the Sun Belt next week. But I think Glyn's right. They're going to need a good week of practice, and they're going to need to clean up some tackling. I don't know they don't tackle in practice, but that to me is something that is concerning going forward, especially with an offensive team like App State's going to be.
Yeah, and he alluded to depth issues, like I just said a minute ago on defense. Depth issues. You don't want to lose a guy over excessive tackling. I get that. Wants to get to the start. It's a big game, and it's going to tell a lot about. I know it's early, and they're going to grow as a team, but this is going to tell me a lot. I'm still have lots of questions. Who are these guys? Where do they really sit in the battle for the Sun Belt?
Right. And one thing I want to ask before we get out of here: offensive line play tonight and pass protection. I thought it was a little worse than last week. I didn't think they played as good as they played against Mississippi State, especially in the first half.
Big reason for that was the blitz game that JSU brought that took us a half to figure out, and also their defensive end number 6. He's a University of Florida guy.
Yeah,
big pickup for them. He gave our right tackle fits that first half.
Yes, and I know that that Nunnery moved outside to start the game, left guard, and Bustard actually started at left tackle. So they did rotate a little bit on that offensive line starting wise. But they really didn't rotate offensive linemen. They only played 8 last week. I think they only played 7 or 8 tonight.
Yeah.
So depth is still a concern, especially in key position battles. Offensive line especially, defensive line too, and then in the back end of the defense as well. But
one nice add to the O-line. I was looking forward to watching him play. Cooper Frazier from Samford. He was a center there. They brought him in the second half on that drive, the first drive where we got the touchdown there, the 7-play drive. Played at right guard. I thought he did a really good job. That's a nice depth piece coming in and can maybe push Maui there at that right guard spot.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Southern Miss tonight, 38-20 over Jackson State. Improves to 1-1 on the season. Losing streak's over. See, they can get that out of their head. The Mississippi State's gone. The Jackson State game is gone. It took care of business, and now App State, and where the season I think really starts for Southern Miss. I think it started exactly how we thought it would. We thought they'd battle against Mississippi State. They battled. Mississippi State pulled away. We thought Jackson State would come in here and battle. They brought a great crowd, great atmosphere, and Southern Miss pulled away. So we're exactly where we thought they would be. So App State 2-0 coming in here next week. You can read all of Glyn's coverage. Glyn, where can they read you at, man? You know way more than me.
Yeah.
That's why I love that you have you on these videos.
Thank you, brother. Just type in goldeneaglepride.com. Come join us. It's like $7 or $8 a month. Get all the coverage, basketball, football, baseball. We're fixing to have fall baseball coverage. We'll have that for you. So come over and join us.
Yeah, and you can read all my coverage at Hub City Spokes, as I hope all of you do who are watching this video. Thanks for watching. We will see you on Tuesday after talking to Huff and a couple players, previewing the App State with a lot more App State in our heads. We'll know a little bit more on Tuesday, hopefully. But we'll see you then, and then obviously in the Rock next Saturday. Thanks for watching. For Glyn Dyar, I'm Dima Mixon. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.